Good morning, AWI summer team members. We're excited to start to see people joining our introductory session for the steward training. I'm very excited to get started. So we're going to let people sign in for a minute or two and enjoy these beautiful slides of the Adirondacks and you all maybe you'll see yourselves. Can I trying to get it so I can see everybody. How come I can't see?
Do you have a question? Lots of questions.
So we're allowing a little bit of time for folks to join. We have how many are we expecting to be on this webinar this morning, Eric?
It should be around probably 110 to 120. We have a few people from outside groups joining us as well.
Okay, great. So we'll sit tight for a little bit longer to allow folks to join. We do have an hour and a half of it, scheduled for this webinar this morning, so we do have time. And
Feel free to say hello in the chat.
yeah, say hello. Say where you're, where you're from, where you're webinaring from. That's a new term. So we're zooming this morning. The Welcome Center. I'm gonna try to get the chat. All right, Rome, New York, Vermont, Ellenburg. That's my home territory. That's where my parents live. Saratoga, right? Smitty.
Plattsburgh, Ogdensburg.
Binghamton. Beautiful.
Yes, we had to choose the first 80-degree day for our Zoom session. Sorry.
Yeah, we're masters of the weather. It's good.
75 people logged in right now.
Awesome.
If anyone's having any kind of technical difficulties, you can message chat Sue.
LMS. Awesome.
Queensbury,
And we're Saratoga.
Jersey, Buffalo.
That's where you're from, Zoe.
Right. Star Lake.
I guess maybe you should ask your fellow Buffalonian to bring you some mustard.
Bring me some mustard, please, Weber's.
These are some great photos. We've got some pre-COVID shots here with the no masks. Nice to see. Greenwich, awesome. Saranac Laker. Looks like we're stuck at 75. Oh, someone has a hand raised.
I'm typing to him.
Okay. A couple people have their hand raised.
Yeah, Dan, we shouldn't be as high as 100 because there are quite a few people taking finals and things this week. So
Okay.
don't worry that there's a lot of people missing.
So Yeah, I'll make it I'll make it Eric Paul's call on when he wants us to pull the trigger.
We could probably get started.
All right, good. So we'll go ahead and get started. Folks. It's a delight to I see all these names. I see your faces. But good morning. My name is Dan Kelping, and I am the executive director of the Paulson's College Adirondack Watershed Institute. I have had the pleasure of probably meeting quite a few of you, at least virtually. Last year, we are still obviously still virtual in terms of our training. I'd like to just start off actually having the Steward team introduce themselves and their name and their position here at AWI. And we'll start off with that, and I'll do a quick review of the agenda, and then we'll hop in. Go ahead, Eric.
All right, so I'm the Stewardship Program Director. I'm sure a lot of you know and recognize me. I've been with the program now for 5 years full-time, and I was also a steward back in 2010 to 2012. So I know the ins and outs of your job very, very well. So I think that bodes pretty well. So when you're having a rough day at the launch, you know, I can relate with you in what you're dealing with out there. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, Eric. Wait, why don't you go, Brett?
Sure. Morning, everyone. My name is Brett Wimstat. So I'm the Decontamination Program Manager here with the Stewardship Program at AWI. So yeah, similarly, I've been around with AWI here for a little while now. I think it's about my 7th year within a couple different positions. So looking forward to it. Very happy to see a lot of returners, some seasoned vets here, and then really looking forward to all the new talent that we have to the board this year. So welcome.
Thanks, Brett. Heather.
Morning, I'm Heather. I'm a program manager, and this is my 7th year with AWI.
Awesome. Leslie.
I'm Leslie. I'm the program assistant, and I'm the one that has helped you through your onboarding process.
That's a big thing. Everybody should give Leslie a big thank you, because that's if you're on board, you're getting paid, which is important. Sue.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sue. I'm the logistics manager. You'll see my screen going on and off because I'm already doing tech support this morning. And just a quick heads up, you guys are going to receive the Canvas email invite during this webinar. Don't worry about doing anything with that until after Dan does the Canvas intro at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sue. And Zoe.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Zoe Smith. I'm the Deputy Director for AWI, and I'm here to support you this summer, support our team in having a wonderful year. So again, welcome and thanks for your dedication to our work.
Great. Thanks everyone. So just a quick overview of our agenda, that we'll hop into it. So I'm going to start off giving just a quick overview of introduction to the Adirondack Watershed Institute for those of you that haven't worked for us before. Then Eric Paul will do the same, actually just diving a little deeper into the stewardship program specifically. Then delighted that we'll actually have Kathy McGlynn is joining us from Albany, from the headquarters, New York State DEC headquarters, Department of Environmental Conservation. She's with the invasive species unit there, and she's going to talk to us about the bigger picture that our stewardship program falls into in terms of managing aquatic invasive species statewide. Then we'll be joined by Gwen Goodman, who's the Director of Human Resources here at Paulson's College, and she's going to talk to us about timesheets. Kind of an odd. This is the only time she's available to talk about this. Otherwise, we would have done it at a different time. But so we'll have a little HR interlude there, and then actually, as Sue said, I'll end with talking about Canvas and just orienting you to our training module. And that'll be it. And then you'll be canvassing for the rest of the day. So, all right. Let me share my screen. Oh, what am I? Can you see my slideshow?
Yep, that looks good.
I just have to move the, some reason, put my slideshow underneath everybody. I got it. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to give you just an overview of the program you are part of. Okay, so the larger program. And so first of all, I think it's I'd like to start off by reminding all us, the collective us, that we are part of Paul Smith College. So it's the Paul Smith College Adirondack Watershed Institute. And just quickly, a little bit about Paul Smith, if you're not lucky enough to be working here or a student or a former student. Paul Smith College is a small private liberal arts and science school located on the shores of Lower St. Regis Lake. We have a 14,000 acre campus. It could be the largest college campus in the world by acreage. That'd be a good stat. So we have baccalaureate programs in culinary hospitality, business, natural sciences, forestry. We also have a couple of associate's degree programs in baking and also arboriculture. So we're very much a hands-on, brains-on school. And I think as you're out there, as you're out there in the field, you're representing this institution. So just remember who you work for, and then it's a good opportunity too, if anybody's interested and you meet some young people that look like they might be thinking about college, talk it up, especially if you're a current student or an alumni. You can talk about the institution and what it's meant for you in terms of your career and experiences. So that's where we are part of this institution. So what are we doing this summer? So we think about the Adirondacks. Yesterday we were on the call with the lead supervisors and regional supervisors, and folks shared universally, I think, what they cared about. They love we love the Adirondacks. I mean, all of us, and one of the things we love most about the Adirondacks is our water. We're blessed with lots of surface water. So just some iconic shots here. We have up in the upper left corner a nice view of Blue Mountain Lake. Moving over, we have a nice little section of the Ausable River. Down in the bottom right corner, we can see Buttermilk Falls on the Racket River. Maybe some of you enjoy this location. And then in the bottom right side, we see a nice shot of Indian Lake. So just some beautiful iconic waters, but just a paltry 4 of 3,000 lakes. So we have over 3,000 lakes and ponds in the Adirondacks, and over 11,000 lakes and ponds in the Adirondacks. And I just gypped them off. 11,000 lakes and ponds in the Adirondacks, and over 30,000 miles of rivers and streams. So we are really fortunate to have a lot of waters. And as you all know that have worked for us, and those who haven't will soon learn that lots of people love Adirondack waters. So what do we love our waters for? A variety of things. A lot of people like to stay in a hotel on the shores of places like Mirror Lake in downtown, which is our urban lake in downtown Lake Placid. Go out and enjoy some water sports, tubing, water skiing, if you're into motorized water sports, or canoeing, kayaking, sailing, all kinds of on-water sports that people love to do, recreation. Maybe you're a fisherman. I know Brett is. Are you a fly fisherman too, Brett? I'm not sure, but so fly fishing on the Ausable River is sort of an iconic thing that people love to enjoy. Camping galore. Here's a nice little shot of folks camping on Indian Lake. So people love to get out there. We've got a site reserved at Rollins Pond for the first weekend of June, myself. Another thing we take one of our ways that we enjoy water is to stay hydrated. So drinking water, we get our drinking water from the ground in the Adirondacks. So that's one of our other things that we we use our water for. So a lot of uses, recreational, independent uses in terms of drinking water. So it's really no exaggeration to say, and so I think it's important when you as stewards are interacting with voters and someone questions your job, like, what are you doing this for? You know, so well, you know, clean water is vital to our economy. You know, it's really the backbone of our economy. And that's absolutely no exaggeration. This has been well documented. So just some statistics for you. Our clean water economy is what I like to call it, is responsible for expenditure of $1.2 billion annually by visitors. Most of these people that are visiting want to stay by the water, so 85%. 70% of people that come to Adirondacks are coming for recreation in the on or in the water. Maybe not in yet because it's a little cold, but certainly on. And 26,000 jobs in the Adirondacks are coming from our clean water-based economy. So that doesn't include your jobs. It's be 26,120. I think maybe I'll add that on there. But so it's just fundamentally important. Our water resources are just fundamentally important for not only just our enjoyment, you know, and just our own recreational and personal enjoyment, but our economy. So just remember that as you're talking to the public this summer. So our waters are under threat. So they're under a constant threat by a number of things, and if they're under threat, our economy is under threat. So looking at another one, here's another iconic Adirondack lake. This is an aerial shot of Upper Saranac Lake. Some of you may have been on this lake before. We spend quite a bit of time on it in AWI as part of our work. So here we're looking at one lake. You can see actually there's quite a few other lakes around, but one lake in its watershed. So it looks great, looks very tranquil and peaceful. But it's under stress. It's under stress, just like all the other lakes in the Adirondacks. They're under some kind of stress, maybe more than one stress. So this lake is under a number of stresses. It's under stress by road salt. So if there are paved roads in the watershed, there's salt being put on the roads, and some of that salt's getting into the lake. So that salt is causing stress, not only to the lake, but to the groundwater that people drink. Air pollution. So we have fossil fuel combustion resulting in acid deposition and mercury deposition in our area, coming into the lakes, affecting the fishery, affecting water quality. Invasive species, which is what you're trying to help protect our waters from, is the stress associated with invasive species. For example, Eurasian water milfoil, which is the photograph here. And stress from other pollutants like phosphorus pollution from lawn fertilizers or failing septic systems, resulting in what you can see here, this green soup. This is a cyanobacteria bloom, or a blue-green algae bloom in one of our region's lakes, which is very harmful to the environment and actually to human health. Because of the toxins in it. So we have a mosaic of stressors, if you will, that are impacting waters, and invasive species are one of the major ones. And there are others, right? So there are others that are out there that are emerging. And of course, these all work together in some fashion to impact water quality. So the Adirondack Watershed Institute. So I told you a little bit about Paul Smith College, our waters. What are we about as a program? Well, this is our mission. So the work that you're doing this summer for us is a central part of the mission of AWI. And our mission is there's a lot of words here, but it boils down to we're about protecting clean water, full stop. So protect clean water. But in order to protect clean water, we need to be able to protect our watersheds, our habitat. Because the clean water is coming from a functioning watershed. But we're also about people, right? We're also about people, so we want to support the health and well-being of people of the Adirondacks as well. So we're a community-focused, centered program as well. And we accomplish our mission through science, through active collaboration with our stakeholders, and also through providing experiences for students in terms of research and summer job opportunities. So a little bit about our science. So we are very practical in our science work, and our science is focused on what we call science for solutions. And just a couple of examples. We've done a lot of work with aquatic invasive species on biology and management. So here you can see a diver. It might be Brett. Brett was ran our aquatic invasive species management team for quite a number of years. And so here's a shot of a diver actually doing some harvesting of variable leaf milfoil. And so we study this process. So we look for efficiencies. We look for efficiencies in operations. We look for understanding the biology of these organisms, all with the idea of being able to provide better recommendations about how to manage these organisms. We study our lakes. You saw that picture before of Upper Saranac, understanding water quality and threats such as road salt. And then we publish. So we publish, these are just examples of peer-reviewed publications that we've done over the years. And the solutions come from this. So we are actively, our science is actively informing what's called the Aquatic Invasive Species Transport Law here in the Adirondacks, which is something that you'll hear more about if you're not familiar with it already, related to the stewardship program. And our science is actually also informed legislation related to road salt use in the Adirondacks, forming a task force in the Adirondacks to look for solutions to groundwater and surface water pollution by road salt. So that's a little bit about our science, practical for solutions to help protect and restore our waters. Stewardship, so stewards are performing stewardship. So you're all actively involved in stewardship, specifically for invasives. We have two kind of major areas for stewardship. The biggest one is the stewardship program that Eric's going to talk about in a minute. So aquatic invasive species prevention program. So you can see the black crosses and red triangles on here. Red triangles are decon stations, and black crosses are where we have stewards located at boat launch sites. So this spread prevention program that you're all involved in is a stewardship program. One of our two stewardship programs specifically focused on the major threat associated with aquatic invasive species. So that's boat inspection at launch sites. That's the decon program. It's also education, all the things you're going to learn about over the next couple of days. And we have another major stewardship program too. It's large as well, but so all those dots represent where we're actively engaged in water quality monitoring. This one's a little different because it's actually it's a volunteer citizen science-based water quality monitoring program where we're working with lake associations and individuals on helping them protect their waters through active monitoring. So we actually have our own. Another side of AWI, we have a crew that goes out and does monitoring on lakes with their own fleet of vessels, as well as engaging with volunteers out there in beautiful weather to do various assessments of water quality. All this stuff feeds into our science as well. Community engagement is a big piece of how we achieve our mission, and that's done through a variety of formats. Education. So the stewardship program plays a big role in here. So educating our youth about invasive species, try to make it fun for them though. Tabling at events. So Sue's on here. There's a nice photo of Sue. Tabling event, talking to, in this case, participants in one of our regional conferences about building awareness about aquatic invasive species and why we care about them. Talking at conferences, sharing our knowledge to stakeholders, and actually holding forums and engaging with the public on various issues more actively in small group formats. So a variety of ways that we engage with the community to deal with these stressors that are on our waters. One being invasive species, so that we can protect our waters and so we can preserve them for us, for nature, for our economy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's it. So that's hopefully gives you a sense of who you are working for and the importance of the general importance of your work in terms of how it fits into our mission in terms of protecting clean water, and also how protecting clean water fits into protecting our economy. So I'll leave it at that, and I will stop sharing my screen. Stop share. Stop share. Okay, good. I stop. Eric, you want to? So next, Eric Paul is going to give you an overview of the stewardship program.
There was one question in
Okay.
there, if you have time, Dan. It's right at the bottom, and it was regarding Upper Saranac Lake.
Maybe someone could read it to me.
Is that eutrophication?
Oh, the green. So the green picture. Is that what they're asking?
I think so, yeah.
Is that eutrophication? So yeah. So the that image I showed you with the green. Yes, absolutely. So eutrophication. So that's a term that so eutro is nutrients. So that's high nutrient, high productivity water body, which is not how our Adirondack waters are normally. Normally they're what we call oligotrophic or low productivity, which would be like that iconic crystal clear look. But yeah, eutrophication is nutrient pollution resulting in the algae. And Eric, would you like to? So Eric Paul is now going to talk to us a little bit about the stewardship program.
Okay, can everybody see my screen? All right, perfect. So first off, I'd like to extend my welcome to all of you as well. I'm very excited to have you here for our second online training. We have a good mixture of returners and new staff here. So the purpose of this presentation is to be a refresher for you returners and also give our new staff a broad overview of our stewardship program and also outline the specific learning objectives of our training. So to start things off, the primary way that aquatic invasive species are spread from water body to water body is on boats, trailers, and associated gear like anchors and anchor lines, fishing lines, and tow ropes for water skis. There are over 100 boat launch sites in the Adirondacks, and probably over 200 when you consider the numerous unofficial launches scattered around the park. And over the course of each summer, well over 30,000 unique boats are launched at these sites. These boats come from other Adirondack and New York State waters, in addition to 40 other states and 6 Canadian provinces. All in all, they came from nearly 3,000 distinct water bodies. And considering the large number of boat launches in the Adirondacks and boaters coming from all over North America, aquatic invasive species pressure on Adirondack waters is high from overland transport. Launching boats have the potential to bring new aquatic invasive species into water bodies where they're not currently found, and this can potentially lead to an infestation by new aquatic invasive species. While retrieving boats have the potential to bring already established aquatic invasive species to other water bodies, which then results in their gradual spread throughout the region and beyond. So some of the common aquatic invasive plants in our region include water chestnut, Eurasian water milfoil, and curly-leaf pondweed. And we also have other less common species. But we also have 3 species of aquatic invasive animals in our region. These are zebra mussels, we have spiny water flea, and we have Asian clam. And you're going to learn more about these and other aquatic invasive species later in your training. You're going to learn how to identify them, a little bit about their biology and ecology, and why we're concerned about them. So the goals of our stewardship program are pretty simple, and these are to prevent new AIS from invading Adirondack waters and to prevent established AIS from invading other waters. You're going to hear during your training this week that prevention is the lowest cost and most effective option for managing aquatic invasive species, because once AIS are already established in a water body, eradication is highly unlikely and ongoing management can be very expensive. So there are 4 major duties as a watershed steward in our program. And we'll start things off with your primary duty as a boat steward, and that's to inspect boats and trailers and all of their associated equipment for aquatic invasive species. You're also going to remove any organisms you find on boats launching and retrieving. This sounds simple enough, but there are a wide variety of watercraft from canoes and kayaks to sailboats and motorboats. Motorboats have a lot of different configurations, so we'll teach you how to properly inspect each type over the next couple of weeks. The majority of boat launches in the Adirondacks and beyond don't have stewards, and the ones that do don't have stewards present 24/7 throughout the boating season. So because of this, we want boaters to get in the habit of inspecting and removing organisms from their own boats, trailers, and equipment themselves. So in addition to inspection, you'll also be educating boaters on the importance of inspecting and cleaning their boats, trailers, and equipment while demonstrating how to do just that. Through these actions, the goal is to empower boaters to take action themselves in order to prevent and slow the spread of AIS. And while boat inspection and hand removal are effective methods to prevent the spread of most aquatic invasive plants, hand removal is not effective at removing most small-bodied aquatic animals, like spiny water flea or zebra mussels. To remove these organisms, we need to use high pressure and hot water. We call this process a decontamination or a decon. And for those of you who have been hired as a decontamination technician at our 26 or 27 decontamination stations across the Adirondack region, you're going to receive additional training on how to maintain and safely operate that equipment later this week and also into next week. And the last major duty is data collection. All of you will be collecting key data from the boaters you encounter using the Watercraft Inspection Steward Program application, or WISPA for short. And you'll be trained on how to use that tool this week as well. Data collected using WISPA was used to create the summary statistics on boats that I shared at the beginning of this presentation, but WISPA has a number of important uses. For example, using WISPA, we were able to determine that boaters who have encountered stewards before transported fewer aquatic invasive species. 3% of boats that had encountered stewards before harbored invasive species versus 8% for boaters who had never encountered a steward before. So this result shows that steward engagement increases the number of boaters who take efforts to clean their boats. And due to this, our training is going to have increased emphasis on communication and engagement with boaters, because we want to continue to increase the number of boaters who clean their own boats. So meeting the 2 goals of our stewardship program, and if you remember, they are to prevent new AIS from invading Adirondack waters and prevent established AIS from invading other waters. And this requires a regional approach. We operate the largest aquatic invasive species spread prevention program east of the Mississippi River. Our program consists of around 110 stewards stationed at 46 boat launches and 26 decontamination stations. Stewards are on duty from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day, and coverage ranges from 5 to 7 days per week and 8 to 12 hours per day. Over $2 million are invested in our program each year, with the majority of our funding coming from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and the Lake Champlain Basin Program, which are both federal sources of funding, provide significant sources to us as well. And we also receive funding from various lake associations and foundations for private contracts to either increase the amount of coverage they receive from state and federal funds, or because their launch would go uncovered without it. And given the extensive geography of our program, we probably cover the same amount of ground as the size of the state of Vermont. We've divided our seasonal supervision into smaller regions. So each region has a lead steward with 10 to 15 stewards and decontamination technicians assigned. There are currently 7 regions this year. So these regions are the Cranberry region, the Paul Smith College region, the North Champlain region, South Champlain region, Great Sacandaga and Glens Falls, the Pasico region, and the Fulton chain. So in closing, we've designed this training for you and your staff to acquire some key skills. And these are to properly and productively engage with boaters following social distancing and PPE requirements. You're going to talk to boaters about AIS and why it's important to prevent these organisms from establishing in our waters. You're going to inspect boats and trailers and associated gear for AIS and properly remove and dispose of these organisms. And you're also going to collect boater data using the WISPA tablet-based survey. And that's the end of my presentation. And I'm not sure if we have enough time for any questions, if there may be any.
Yeah, let's, I think we certainly have time if anybody has a question.
We definitely do.
Yeah. Any questions for Eric or even myself? We can kind of load them on. That was Kathy. Good. So, Kathy and Pamela. Why don't we? So I think I don't see any questions showing up. So we'll move along with the agenda. So I see that Kathy McGlynn's name is showing up on the webinar screen. Kathy, could you start your video? And there she is. Good morning, Kathy.
Morning. How are you?
Great. So folks, we're delighted to have Dr. Kathy McGlynn joining us from New York State DEC. She's the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator with the Bureau of Invasive Species and Ecosystem Health, broadcasting from Albany area, I think. So
I'm actually at central office today, so you could probably hear Dave in the background.
Great. Awesome. So we're super delighted to have Kathy join us, and she's going to talk to us really about the big picture, about where our program fits into the larger efforts by New York State to help manage aquatic invasive species at the larger scale and where we fit in. So Kathy, turn it over to you to go ahead and get started.
So I will press that share button and hopefully all will be well. Let's see.
It's like you never know, right?
Never know. Hopefully that's working. Okay, good. Yay.
Yep. We're good.
Right. So let's get this to screen view, please. Yes. All right. The day is going well. Okay. So as Dan said, I'm the AIS coordinator for DEC, and my job is to help implement the Aquatic Invasive Species Management Plan, the newest version, which was released July 1st, 2015. So I'll jump ahead and just start talking about your role and how we implement that plan and how important what you do is for New York State. All right, let's see if we can move forward this way. There we go. So key points I'll be talking about during the talk is, as Dan had requested, a high-level view of New York State approaching the management of AIS, our PRISM structure, not prison. I also often hear people saying, prison? You work with prisons? So we'll talk a little bit more about what a PRISM is. High-level statewide boater data, components of WISP, which is the Watercraft Inspection Steward Program acronym. We have lots of acronyms. A quick overview of New York State's AIS transport law and how we're a volunteer-based program, and the Bureau of Invasive Species and Ecosystem Health, and the section that I work in, just providing an overview of that. So New York State's AIS management plan, as mentioned, was released in July 2015. Its focus is on prevention, interrupting pathways of spread and introduction, as well as containing and preventing spread. Because as we go on, there's a link here if you'd like to look into that plan in more detail, please go for it. I will go on to describe a little bit more about what we do as prevention and also what we do focused on mitigation. So the plan itself does focus a lot on prevention, but a good part of what we know about prevention is that it's not 100% foolproof. So we have to have a backup plan or something to supplement that. So we have early detection and rapid response efforts across the state. We also do some control and management efforts when feasible, as well as research into basic biology of species, new control techniques, and also just assessing impacts of species. Sometimes that's not really known about a lot of the aquatic plants or the aquatic animals as well that invade. So getting back to our focus on prevention, it is the best method for dealing with invasives, and you are part of that prevention effort as a boat steward. It helps us to avoid ecological impacts and also reduces economic impacts. But as I had said, it's not 100% foolproof, but it is the best way for dealing with these invasive species. Some of the pathways of introduction we're considering, in addition to recreational watercraft, are the pet trade and aquaria. Many of you have probably heard about the mossball mania, which I like to call it, where aquatic mossballs that were used in aquaria were sold by various pet stores, and unfortunately they had little hitchhikers, which happened to be zebra mussels on them. So we had to do there was a national recall of those particular mossballs. So just a demonstration of how powerful aquaria releases and aquaria trade, how powerful their impact can be on water resources. In addition, we work with aquatic gardeners, helping them to choose plants that are not going to be invasive, particularly if they're released from a garden by a flood event, or they're intentionally introduced along a waterway. Most recently, we're working on life releases or ceremonial releases to help religious communities understand that when they want to make life releases to earn merit, they need to be very careful about what species they're choosing to release. We also do dabble into live markets, but we haven't been extensively working through that, but there are many cases of live markets selling invasive species. In addition, Fisheries has a list of certified bait on its website that folks can look into, because that is also a way in which a number of species have been introduced to New York. So next slide, please, as I'm telling myself, and I'm making the change myself. Going to the mandatory portion, and the mandatory, let's see if I describe this. There's a spectrum in terms of what we do in terms of prevention. So it's from mandatory to voluntary. Looking at the mandatory portion of that spectrum, we have a number of regulations that help people and guide them in terms of how to prevent spreading invasives or introducing invasives. So we have Part 575, which is essentially a list of prohibited and regulated species. Prohibited species are not allowed to be bought, sold, bartered, or transported. Regulated species can be sold, but they come with a warning label. Section 11 of the Environmental Conservation Law deals with the release of zebra mussels and shellfish, which is not okay in New York. We have that list of certified bait, which I had mentioned, which you can take a peek at if you're interested at our website. I can also send links for that. We have an amendment to Article 3 of the NAV law, which requires signage at all public boat launches, which state how to protect your waters in terms of what to do to clean, drain, and dry. We also have for parks and DEC laws that require clean, draining, and drying on both retrieval and launching of boats at DEC and parks boat launches. And then most recently, we have Part 576, which is reasonable precautions, which is essentially requiring folks to clean, drain, and dry before launching from any boat launch on public waters. And I like to joke that public waters are defined as anything, any water body except for your bathtub and your swimming pool. Okay, so what is the role of Adirondack Watershed Institute in this program? The Adirondack Watershed Institute has the largest program of all programs in New York. We have a number of programs for stewards. AWI's is the largest. It is the most long-standing, and it is the one that focuses on decon. We have a number of decon stations throughout the Adirondack Park to act as a buffer for particular microscopic AIS, particularly through Lake Champlain and Great Sacandaga Lake. So this is unique to the Adirondack area. This is the main concentration of WASH stations in New York. Just giving a little bit of perspective, the Adirondack Park AIS Prevention Program, I'm sure Eric will provide way more detail than I'm about to do in this slide, but you have 120 employees or stewards, 46 launches, 26 decon stations working Memorial Day to Labor Day, and sometimes to Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, depending on the location, working 5 to 7 days a week. anywhere from 8 to 10 hours for a shift. And it's the program that the part of the program that we fund is about $2 million a year. Putting it in a broader perspective, looking at the entire state, which is how I tend to view things, because that's the role that I play in this program. In New York State, we have over 200 locations to which stewards are deployed, with more than 250 stewards covering those locations. Last year, we had an uptick in popularity of boating, most likely due to the pandemic. So a lot of new boaters out there, a lot more boater activity. So our stewards saw more than 390,000 boats, which was up more than 100,000 from the previous year. About 297,000 of those boaters agreed to inspections, and we had about almost 15,000 declined inspections. And based on our WISPA survey, which was also mentioned, the Watercraft Inspection Steward Program App Survey, which is a standardized survey used across New York, we found that over 183,000 boaters had already taken preventive measures before coming to the launch. And then more than 170,000 of those boaters were just returning to the same waters or had not been in the water for more than 2 weeks, which is really good news. And about 38,000 boaters came from a different water body, which is not so good news. So we need to be careful of that. And even more interesting from my perspective is we had more than 30,000 boaters, first-time boaters interacting with stewards. So this was a great opportunity for stewards to raise awareness about AIS with the boaters. And as how do I describe this? One of the best things I like to report is the interceptions. So last year we had more than 19,000 interceptions of AIS, and 2 of those were of the extremely invasive aquatic plant hydrilla at Lake Ontario and Lake Champlain. So that's a win-win for us. That's really great. And just noting how popular the launches in New York are, our stewards recorded boats from 58 states and Canadian provinces last year. Okay, so we're getting back to the PRISM as opposed to the prisons. So PRISMs are partnerships for regional invasive species management. They are funded through our Environmental Protection Fund and given oversight by DEC. There are 8 of them. They are essentially a grassroots stakeholder effort. So oftentimes the host of these PRISMs is a university or cooperative extension or soil and water conservation district. And they work closely with people in their region to do prevention, early detection, rapid response, control efforts, research, education, and outreach. They are the folks who have the local knowledge and they can put it to use for these efforts. So here's just a massive list of watercraft inspection steward programs that we currently work with and who use the Watercraft Inspection Steward Program app. I don't expect folks to read through that. I'm just letting you know that it's a large number of programs. So the mission of our program has been and will continue to be behavioral change. So we want public to commit to clean, draining, drying their watercraft and equipment, even when stewards are not present, because we have more than 7,000 lakes, ponds, rivers, and streams in New York, and there's no way that it's possible for us to have a steward everywhere to help people and remind them to clean, drain, and dry. So what we're working to create is a culture of responsibility. So folks understand that they are stewards of the waters that they use. So our hashtag for this program is Protect Your Waters, hashtag Clean, Drain, Dry. We are part of the Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers program that is at the national level. So I also wanted to provide a little bit of background information about where I work for folks who are interested in pursuing careers with DEC or would like to learn more about that. So I work for the Bureau of Invasive Species and Ecosystem Health, which is housed in the Division of Lands and Forests. And the section I work in is the Invasive Species Coordination section. We currently have 4 people who oversee all of the projects across the state right now. We're down 2 people, but we are hiring in a education outreach coordinator and a response and management coordinator. So a lot of what we do, I put in bold here. So we work on both terrestrial and aquatic invasives. We do invasive species risk assessment. The results of those risk assessments inform what species are put on the Part 575 prohibited and regulated list, and also what priorities there are for control and management and early detection for our PRISMs and our own work. We help to provide guidance and oversight and host Invasive Species Awareness Week. So we do organize that among the prisons and various other entities across New York State every year. We also provide oversight for large-scale hydrilla control projects in multiple locations across New York to protect watersheds, as well as oversight for the Watercraft Inspection Steward Program, providing personnel support, equipment, education outreach materials, whatever it takes to get that program to run smoothly. In addition, we provide statewide education outreach campaigns, as well as K through 12 curriculum, which was worked on by our previous education outreach coordinator. We are working on the development of EDA lab, and we coordinate with U.S. Fish and Wildlife on that development and work with them closely when we have potential reports, particularly of northern snakehead. We currently use the EDA lab for U.S. Fish and Wildlife in Lamar, Pennsylvania as our partner. And then I also want to mention that not only do we work at the state level, we work at the regional level, because as we all know, AIS doesn't recognize political or state boundaries. So I am the representative for New York on the Northeast and the Great Lakes ANS panels, or Aquatic Nuisance Species panels, which are part of the Federal Aquatic Nuisance Species Task Force. And my coworker, Steve Pearson, who is our EDA lab expert, who represents us on the Mid-Atlantic panel. I also participate in the Governors and Premiers AIS Task Force. So it is very much a multi-level effort to create these prevention programs and exchange information across borders, and also do control efforts across borders. And one other thing I wanted to put in a plug for is that as part of the Watercraft Inspection Steward Program in New York, you will automatically be part of the Great Lakes Landing Blitz, which will take place June 26th through July 4th, which is a Great Lakes regional effort with all of the 8 Great Lakes states and Canadian provinces to have stewards out during that week to provide education and outreach to boaters about AIS and their impacts. So just putting that in perspective for you, a little bit of context. So here's just a schematic of what I had just talked about, and here's where we work. So I essentially have 2 people who work with me. We have a Croton Hydrilla project manager, and we have Steve Pearson, who's our EDA lab manager. The Croton project manager is Nicole White. She is also participating because we have so few people working on AIS on our team. She also helps out with many projects across the state too, as time allows, as does Steve. Okay, so a little bit more at the national level, just leaving you with this perspective. New York State has one of the most proactive invasive species programs in the country. New York, Wisconsin, and Minnesota have some of the most extensive standardized watercraft inspection steward programs and central databases also in the country. They're great programs to work with. They're incredible resources. We exchange a lot of information and we collaborate on a lot of projects with both those states. And New York is the first state to have developed an AIS management plan, which was submitted for federal ANS task force approval in 1994. So just giving you a bit of historical context there. So that's it for me. I thank you very much for the time that you've given me to provide this information to everyone, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. I wanted to say a couple things, but while I'm talking, folks, if you want to ask any questions of Kathy or any questions at all related to what you've heard so far today, please post, or comments, please post them to the Q&A. Zoe is monitoring that for us, and she'll bring those questions and comments forward. I think it's really great, Kathy, to hear from you the big picture, where our program fits in at the state and the national level. I think our stewards also really appreciate hearing about DEC potential career options. Right, so I think a lot of certainly working for the DEC was like my #1 goal as want to be a forest ranger. That was my #1 goal as a growing up through high school. But wonderful organization to work for in the environmental field. So really I think folks really appreciate you sharing that part of it with us as well. I just wanted to kind of hop on, or link rather, the behavior change slide. I think that's
Go back.
Yeah, well, you don't have to go back. I think or maybe go back. Yeah, so I think folks, our stewards, this is really what what we're trying to do. And so Eric talked about more emphasis on public engagement this year in education. This is why we're trying to change behavior, so that the voters are in self-compliance.
Yes.
So as Kathy said, you know, we're at a lot of places, but not very many when we think about all the places that are out there. So so behavior change, we're trying to help. You know, we're trying to change behaviors by really cranking up the emphasis on that aspect this year. So you're seeing that change in our program. So I really appreciate seeing. I just hope folks appreciate how that links into what Kathy has shown us in terms of the state's emphasis on that. Anything in the chat or Q&A today?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I think some of this stuff we're probably going to go over later in training, but Eric, they're probably more for you if you want to.
Yeah.
First one is about decons, wondering about what happens if the decon is broken.
Yeah, so you know, as the director, I like to really spotlight my team. So I'm gonna actually have Brett answer that one.
So we're going to kill two birds with one stone here. There's also a question for, is decon training part of these days or is it separate? So it is part of it on Thursday from basically 11 o'clock on until that evening, 5 o'clock or so. That's all decon training online. And so to then go back to the question of the decon breaking, that's all going to be covered in part of that. So yes, you know, if it were to break, you know, you're going to be in contact with your supervisor, who's then going to be in contact with me to address those issues. But yeah, so the latter half of Thursday is all decon training, and then next week you're going to be assigned, you've already been assigned for your decon training in-person day on Paul Smith College campus.
Great. And then Eric, these two probably are for you. One is about breaks for lunch during the summer, and then if important, definitely. Person after my own heart. Will your station change based on needs at other stations in your region?
Yep, so I will, I'll answer the seminar question. Yes, you'll be diving into Canvas, which is our online learning-based system here, probably within the next half an hour to 40 minutes. From there, you'll be able to see the complete schedule of the day. And yes, we certainly have breaks built in throughout the day. For the other one, your station change based on need or other stations in your region, I'm going to allow Heather to answer that.
So yes, although for the most part, people will have a primary launch that they'll work throughout the summer, you will be asked to work at other launches that are commutable to where you live. That's why when you were all hired, we asked you where you were going to be living this summer. That is information so that we can make sure that we're not scheduling you anywhere super far away.
Thank you. I actually had a question for Kathy, if you don't mind me popping in.
Sure.
So this isn't a question for me, but it's a question for some of our, you know, kind of upper level staffers who have been with us for, you know, any number of years. You mentioned that you had a couple of positions open, and not that I would ever want to see us lose our staff, especially at this point in the season, but for, you know, those who on this training who may potentially be interested, do those require civil service exams?
They do not. They're currently contract through ESF. I would love those positions to be civil service because I suspect if they were, the turnover would be less great. But for right now, what we have is ESF contract positions. So no exam. And I do want to say that I didn't take a civil service exam for my position either. So there are certain titles at DEC that don't require that. It's more just competitive, and it allows you to do your search outside of the agency, which is what my former boss wanted. So that's like the research scientists 1 through 4 positions are competitive and not civil service. So there are some opportunities there too for folks if they are interested.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
I think, so I want to thank everybody. Thank Kathy in your own virtual way, but I'll do it live. So Kathy, thank you so much for
Sure.
joining us this morning, and we'll be seeing you around the summer.
I hope so. Yes, this year will be much different from last, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you very
guys.
much. Have a great training.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Gavin.
All right, so I see, there she is. Hi, Gwen. I see Gwen Goodman has just joined us. So Gwen is our Director of Human Resources here at Paul Smith College, and Gwen is going to talk to us about, I believe, about something related to our timesheets and timekeeping and policies and procedures around that. So I will turn it over to Gwen.
Can I share my screen?
Should be able to.
You're good. Looks good.
I think you're on mute, Gwen.
Myself. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, okay. Oh, I think Janet was calling me, so I muted for a second while I was doing this. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the second year of doing this timekeeping presentation virtually. I admit that I really like doing it live. So even though it's virtual, I encourage questions, thoughts as we go along. The purpose of doing this is to really give you the background for what it means to keep time and why is that important, and then to talk a little bit about leave. So we're going to start with why is timekeeping important? You know, why do we do it? You know, we've been told you're going to be paid a certain amount an hour and that you're going to work a 40-hour week, but why do we do that? Well, we've got to pay you accurately. And as you're going to hear from me more than once in a half an hour, you actually are going to be paid for the time that you really worked, not your scheduled time. So that's important. The second is that we have to have a means by which to pay you on time. We have a hardworking payroll manager here, and if we don't do our end of it of giving her accurate information in timesheets velocity, she can't pay you properly. And then there's a big one that we have to remain in legal compliance. There are things that both on a federal level, a state level, and then from a policy standpoint here at the college and at AWI, that we want to make sure that we're all equally compliant. And one of those pieces of compliance is overtime. And while I doubt that there will be much overtime for you as stewards, I still need to explain to you what that means and how it works, so that should it happen, you understand it ahead of time, not down the road, right? And so those are the important things here. So I alluded to the legal compliance. The big piece of what governs timekeeping is it's an old law from the 1930s. Think about the Depression as we were coming out of it. And it's called the Fair Labor Standards Act. And at that time in our country's history, we didn't have rules about how you got paid, when you got paid, how long you could work. And there were abuses happening left and right. And I will still tell you, with the Fair Labor Standards Act, there's still abuses that take place, but we have a lot to come back upon. And here at the college, we want to align ourselves from the beginning with any of our positions to do it right the first time. So that's the Fair Labor Standards Act. It defines for us what's a non-exempt and exempt position. So non-exempts are all of you as stewards. Eric, Zoe, Dan, and I are all what are called exempt positions. So that means we're going to be paid what we're going to be paid regardless of how much time we put in. So if it's a 60-hour work week, we still get the same salary. If you all work 45 hours in a work week, you're going to get overtime. Does that make sense?
Gwen, this is great. Can you put your presentation in full screen just so folks can see?
Yeah, did it not do that?
It doesn't look it here.
Okay, but it didn't go forward, did it? Huh, okay, let's do that first. Okay. That's weird. I'm learning.
It's okay.
Okay, so I need to get rid of this over here. Let's see if I can, oh, that's gonna,
Left where it says from current slide,
Yeah,
you could hit that.
top left,
top left.
under the home, it says from current slide, click on that.
It's an icon. One more over.
No. Are you seeing me move a cursor?
Sort of.
It disappeared.
Are you seeing what governs timekeeping?
Yep.
Okay. Odd. And I have a note page here that I'm trying to get rid of. So sorry, I'm just.
You don't see your
That's
note.
okay. No, take it. That's okay.
So do you see something called next animation?
No.
Okay, you don't see.
Yeah, we just see your slide. What's governing timekeeping as it just in the PowerPoint design.
Okay. Sorry, this is.
I don't know where your cursor went. It was like
Did you just see a new thing flip up?
No.
Oh, maybe you need to stop sharing your screen and pick a different.
Oh, right, there you go. We saw your cursor.
You saw my cursor.
I think maybe the slideshow is probably going now, but you have to stop sharing. Maybe stop sharing this. And
Did I just stop showing everything?
yeah, and then start share again and see if you have the option of looking at this. You should see like just the slide.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay, so you've got what governs timekeeping?
Yep. We're good.
Okay. All right. This is why next year, we're all going to stay safe this next year and healthy. And I get to do this live. And it'll be, so you're all going to give me a little bit of grace for my technological challenges today. How's that?
No worries on that, believe me.
Okay. So let's see if I can make this happen. Okay. So as a non-exempt employee, you're paid an hourly wage rather than a salary. And that's why getting accurate timekeeping is really important, so we can account for that accurately. So we're going to pay you for all of your hours at work, not your scheduled hours. And that confuses people at first. But that's why we start, I get to be early in your training so you understand what you're being paid for. And as you talk about your scheduling with Heather and Eric and all of that, you understand that those are your scheduled hours, not your hours worked. Your hours worked are what gets reported in Paylocity. Okay. Should you work more than 40 hours in a work week, we're going to compensate you in pay. And that's a kind of a great thing. The goal is not to work anyone overtime, but there may be a situation that arises that that needs to happen. And in general, it's going to happen in conjunction with your steward supervisors and the management being aware of that. So we record everything in a timesheet. We use Paylocity as our tool for that. And the time gets recorded. You make your comments, it gets approved by your supervisor, and then it rolls over to our friend in payroll, and that's how you get paid. So everything's integrated within that system, which is really great. From a time reporting, you're going to use something called When I Work, right, for scheduled work. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I just don't want to confuse those two. You've got what you're scheduled work through when I work, and then you're going to report those actual hours worked in Paylocity. And in an ideal world yet to come, we would have been able to figure out a way to integrate those two systems, but we haven't. So just be aware of that. So time worked, and this is where I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm not going to be able to hear your answers, but just think about, what is our work week? Is it, when you look at a calendar, you see Sunday through Saturday? Is it Monday through Friday? Is it the weekends? None of those things. Our work week is Saturday AM to Friday night midnight. So what that means is, when you've got a schedule that's Thursday through Monday, or Friday through Tuesday, right, as a work schedule, your work week actually breaks up in the middle at Friday. Okay. And so you may think, oh, I worked overtime in that scheduled 40 hours, but you actually didn't, because of the way the work week plays out. And that's really an important element that can be confusing to folks. And I don't want it to be, but we have to operate under a standard work week for all the employees under the college. And so your days on Saturday until your days on Friday night all are in one work week, that Saturday through Friday period. One of the things, and I heard it alluded to already, is that there's a half-hour non-paid meal break. This isn't AWI rule, it isn't Paul Smith's rule, it's New York State's law. So it's a way of saying, hey, take a little bit of time for yourself, and make sure you get some nutrition in your scheduled time. When you're reporting time, I know that you're not going to have necessarily at every location data, but as soon as you're able to put data in and go into Paylocity, put your work time daily. I have a hard time remembering exactly what time I got to work a week ago last Tuesday. I imagine that you would have the same issue. So if you put your time work daily, you're going to have an accurate time, and there's not going to be questions raised. So this is where I'm going to say a really nasty word, and that's fraud. If you are scheduled to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and you get there at 8:30 because life happened, you have to report that you got there at 8:30. If we discover that you have a habit of putting in that you got there at 8 but not getting there until afterwards, that's considered fraud. And there are disciplinary actions that could and should take place. Just be aware of that. This is not just me talking. This is really important that you do this accurately. And you're on the honor system. We hired you because we believe that you all are going to be honorable in all of the work that you do. Honorable working with our client public, honorable working with your supervisors, and most importantly, being honorable with yourself, which is reporting your time on an accurate basis. Overtime. The Fair Labor Standards Act says that we have to pay you for all hours worked, even if not authorized ahead of time. So I'm going to make up a situation where at a launch, it's really, really busy and you end up staying there a half hour longer. Typically, you're going to want to get that authorized in advance. But if you actually work that half hour longer, we want it reported, we want it commented upon, so that we can pay you for that time. Conversely, if you started at 8:30 and you worked until 5, then you're only going to get that 7.5 hours in there, not the 8. But if you have more hours than 40 in that work week, we are going to pay you for that. We could require you to work overtime. If we have a need for folks to work overtime, typically we're going to start from a volunteer basis and then move beyond that. And that has to do with the shifting of launches and places for folks to work, which comes back to what Heather was saying about we need to know where you're coming from so we can give good assignments. And then you'll be paid more than your regular hourly rate. You get paid what's typically called time and a half. So basically a premium for each hour over that 40 hours or any period. If it's 15 minutes, we're going to pay you for 15 minutes of overtime. That is essential to us as a college being responsible back to you for your good efforts in reporting actual time. This fits into this. We're not going to do informal comp time. So you can't cut a deal with your supervisor where you're going to come in late on Friday and come in at 10, but you said, well, I'm really going to, because I know Saturdays are busy, I'm going to stay until, I'm supposed to leave at 6 on Saturday, I'm going to stay until 8, but I'm going to put my regular hours in there, okay? Can't do that. You've got to put what you actually work. So if you have a legitimate reason to come into onto the launch at 10, you've spoken to your supervisor ahead of time, you're going to report that 10 o'clock start time and leave at your normally scheduled time. Skip this next slide. It shouldn't have been in there. So here's the deal. Accounting for work is really a joint responsibility of your supervisors and employees. And there's a lot of effort that the AW management staff puts into helping this work well. Okay. At the end of the day, we're going to be bothering supervisors for time submittals, but don't put your supervisor in that position. Really don't. It's not. It's not a good place to be. When you've got accurate in and out time, we've set up the rules behind the scenes in Paylocity. People who can program way better than me have done this so that we get your accurate bi-monthly pay and if you worked more than 40 hours, any overtime. So what about time off? So what happens if you get COVID? So first of all, we hope everyone's taking advantage of getting vaccinated. If you haven't, get yourself to a vaccination clinic as soon as possible and do it. It's really important. We just learned that tomorrow across the state, we're going to follow the CDC guidelines in our public spaces about vaccinated folks not being required to wear masks. So at this point, AWI is still going to require you to wear a mask at the launch. I don't know whether that, Dan, in lieu of these new rules, will be reconsidered, but that's a conversation for a few days down the road. And if that changes, you all will know. But most importantly, vaccination keeps you from getting sick. But should you get COVID, there's special sick leave pay, and you're going to need to work with me or Brenda and the other person in HR to get that. So just be aware of that. We don't anticipate this with the really low rate that's happening throughout and the low rate of exposure and the high rate of vaccination here in New York. If you have unpaid leave for personal reasons, you need to request that a week in advance. Please don't do a disservice to your person that's working at the launch with you and not show up as doing a no-show kind of thing. Plan if you need to be absent in advance. There is sick leave available to folks through a new law with the New York State that began in January. So if you're feeling sick, first of all, contact your supervisor. The sick leave is earned at 1 hour per 30 hours worked. So for example, you'll have 8 hours of sick leave banked after 240 hours worked. So that's basically 6 weeks of work. You can only use it if earned. There's no advancement. Unfortunately, if you call in sick tomorrow during training, you wouldn't have any sick leave to use. It would just be an unpaid day. The second thing is that you can only report those hours that you've earned. So if you'll be able to see what you've earned after the pay period processes in Paylocity. So it's quite possible that you may be out sick for a day and not have a full day's worth of sick leave, in which case you're going to use what you have available, and then you're going to put a comment to say, I was sick on this day during this time. You'll see the sick leave drop down on your possibilities for work time sick leave. You'll see that in your drop down with Paylocity. But this is really important to recognize that it's not, though we have this paid sick leave, it is not, unfortunately, if you do get really ill, it doesn't cover all of your time. If you were out for 2 weeks for something that wasn't COVID, you would just be unpaid and for that sick leave. And so sometimes we hear that we have this New York paid sick leave and we think, oh, great, it covers more than it actually does. So timesheet deadlines, they're generally going to be due the morning after a pay period ends. Keep a copy of the payroll schedule handy. If you want to find it and you don't know where it's at anymore, go to the human resources page of paulsmiths.edu and you'll see payroll and you can see the deadlines. And I know I'm a broken record. Enter your hours worked on a daily basis. I really can't say that enough. It makes a big difference. So the last thing I want to leave you with is please be safe. But should you have an injury on the job, we need to report that through the accident reporting form. Should you get injured, you're going to talk to your supervisor. If it's an injury that does not require medical attention immediately, you may still want to report it. Something like a twisted knee that you tripped on the boat ramp kind of thing may not appear at first moment as being significant, but could become that. And so we want to get those things reported on a timely basis. So I hope we've had a pretty good record with AWI and kept our injuries to really rather, the word mild comes to mind, and that's not the right, low incident. So when you review your timesheet as supervisors before you approve it, you're going to get, Leslie's done 2 nice overviews for you of how to use Paylocity. The last thing I'll say is if you have questions, ask us. We're here to help. At the end of the day, we want timekeeping to work smoothly because you understand it, you know what your roles and responsibilities are, and we've answered your questions. And I'm not sure if there's any chats that have a question. Let me go up and see.
Yeah, Gwen, there is one, sorry, from someone, maybe we might have to bring her on to ask if we need clarification. But the question is, I've used Paylocity in other jobs. Why not have it set up to clock in and clock out directly on Paylocity? Or is it because not all areas have cell service?
We're not set up as a college to do the clock in and out. It works well in certain situations, but it doesn't work well across the college. It's sort of a, it's really dependent on the job, whether or not you can use that. And in addition, the not having data coverage and Wi-Fi, if you don't have that uniformly, then it doesn't work as well.
So I'm not sure, hopefully that answered your question to the person who asked. If not, just send me a chat and let me know if you want that. Okay, good, that answered it, great. 2 more, can you email us the timesheet? My personal computer is broken. I won't have a new one for another week or 2.
So this is, I think you can do it off the iPad. And this is,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
Everyone's shaking their head, yes, okay. So you can do it off your iPad that you're assigned from us.
Yeah.
Okay. And then mileage, I know this is covered in our handbook, but Gwen or Eric, do you want to talk about mileage compensation?
I think that's going to be Eric, not me.
Sure. Stewards do not get compensated for mileage to their launch. We do our best to keep everybody within a normal commutable range of their work site.
Any other questions? Doesn't look like it.
Well, thank you so much, Gwen. If you wouldn't mind stopping sharing your
Oh, I can stop share that. That's in bright red. I can find it easy.
cool.
Well, thank you for your
Anything else coming
patience.
up for Gwen? I think one of the messages is if you're uncertain about something, ask a question.
Definitely, please.
That's across the
what we're
board.
here for.
That's not,
Yep.
that's across the board.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Gwen.
All right, I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
And hope you all have a great training. And you're starting work, for those of you who are brand new, a wonderful organization. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Gwen.
Thanks, Gwen.
All right, so the last, we're doing pretty good on time management. See, it's 9:29, 20:28. So the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to talk to you about our Canvas training. And so does everybody see on the panel at least? Can you give me a nod if you're seeing the training? Great. So for those of you that were with us last year, again, we used the Canvas platform for our online training support. For those of you that are new, this is the system that the college uses for its learning management system. It's meant to be pretty straightforward in terms of how to utilize it. You all should have received, as Sue said, a password to be able to log on to this. So after this session, you'll want to check that out. But I'm just going to give you a quick orientation to the system. So when you open up the page, you're going to land on a welcome page. And so here, if you are new to Canvas, on this welcome page, you can scroll down to the 3rd paragraph down. It says your training will consist of a combination of live sessions using Zoom and training modules within Canvas. If you are not familiar with Canvas, please review getting started in Canvas before continuing with your training. So there's this training module on Canvas built in. So if you want to gain more familiarity with how to use Canvas, go ahead and click that button, and that'll take you through some lessons on getting more familiar with Canvas. If you look on the top of the page, you'll see there's a series of tabs. See, as I move the hand over, they light up. For your training, for the stewards and decontamination technicians, all of your training online will occur under the stewards and decontamination text tab. So you want to go to this tab and click it, and that's going to bring you to your training page. So all of your training is accessed through this one page. You can download. So the first thing you can see here, we've got when training starts, when it ends. You can download a copy of the schedule if you wish, just by clicking this button here. But the way we have this organized is the actual training schedule that you would download looks exactly like this. So we have all the training, including the breaks. So there was a question posted in the chat about when is your first break? Well, it turns out it's at 9:30. Oh, don't get off yet, it's 9:31. But you'll have a break immediately after, 15-minute break immediately after this Zoom session. And then you can see the way this is organized. So we have today is Tuesday, May 18th. Right now in the welcome Zoom session, you'll have a break. And then from 9:45 to noon, you will actually go through sequentially, starting with timesheets and Paylocity. So continuing on actually with the theme that Glenn kicked off a minute ago. You'll go in, and so I can click on the timesheets and Paylocity. That's going to take you to a page. So they're all set. All these are set up the same way. These are meant to be completed sequentially. So starting with number 1, you will go through and review the procedures. Then you're going to read chapter 4 in our handbook. You're going to watch a narrated PowerPoint. You can look at the non-narrated version if you want to, and then you're going to post any questions that you have related to this particular, we call these modules, related to this particular module to a discussion board. And so all of the training modules are set up exactly the same way. The discussion board is very important. So if you have any, when we're in a Zoom session, you have the ability to post something to either to the chat or to the Q&A for the webinar. Here, since this is asynchronous or not live learning, your opportunity to ask a question happens through discussion board. So if you have any questions about this particular, when you're in the timesheets Paylocity, which is the very first module after your break this morning, post them to the discussion board. And then this afternoon in the closing, every afternoon there's a closing live Zoom. Eric and his team will answer any questions posted to the discussion boards. So it's very, very important for, if you have any questions, any comments on any of these modules, please post them to the discussion board to be answered by Eric and his team in the afternoon. It is Steward and Decon training tab. You'll just go through and look at the schedule, 9:45 to 12, work sequentially down through the series of modules. Then you'll so you're on your own, actually, you're on your own today till 4 o'clock. So you'll take your lunch break from 12 to 12:30, and you'll have 3 additional modules to complete between 12:30 and 3:45. And notice they're changed. So the ones in the morning are really about the workplace procedures. And then in the afternoon, you actually get into the training about aquatic invasive species and identification and all that kind of stuff. So doing your job in the field. The webinars are actually, the Zoom calls are all in here too. So you can come right in here to join the 4 o'clock call where all your Q&A, all your discussion posts will be addressed by Eric and his team. You just can click on this and it'll take you to the Zoom call. Then tomorrow morning, log into Canvas again and do the same thing, join tomorrow mornings, and then you'll go through and do the respective things. So this should work well. If you have any problems, actually contact Sue. She'll be your problem solver for all the technology. That you may things may hang up on you, but let us know. Let Sue know rather if you're having any problems with any of this.
Can I insert a little specific about Canvas, Dan?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, guys, in the middle of this webinar, I sent out the Canvas invitation emails for this training course. If you didn't train with us last year, or you are using a new email address this year, you have to sign up for a new account on our platform. Even if you've used Canvas at Paul Smith College or at another college, you need a new account on our special platform. You can reuse the same email and password that you use on other Canvas password platforms. It just needs to be created new on our site. And returners who used Canvas last year, our platform already knows you, so you should be able to log in with your same information from last year. But if anyone struggles with anything, I'm putting my email address into the chat box, and you all have gotten emails from me already, so you can also pull it out of your email box. And yes, I will be available all day. Like Dan said, if it's questions about the material, put it in the discussion board, but contact me for any technical difficulty that you're having. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you for that, Sue.
Yep.
So you're going to take a break, then you'll actually be the rest of the day right up until 4 o'clock working through Canvas on these modules sequentially. Take your lunch break at noon. Then you'll take a break. You'll take a break, an afternoon break before the final Zoom session of the day. I'll just point out one last thing, and notice on Thursday, May 20th, starts with the opening Zoom session with a daily overview. But what I want to point out is there's a break in terms of stewards and decons. So at 10:15, if you're hired as a steward, you will join the final questions and answers Zoom session for the stewards, and your day will be done. Your training will be completed in terms of the online, not in-person training at 11 a.m. The decon techs will join their own Zoom session, and their training will continue to the rest of the day. So I just wanted to point that out for folks that may not understand the coding here. So with that, I'll give it back over to, I don't know, Eric, if you wanted to say anything before we let these folks go, or?
Yeah, actually, Heather had a comment that she wanted to make on schedules, so I'll let her do that real quick.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to let you all know to keep an eye on your email today. I will be sending you an update regarding your schedules for your first week at the launches. I've been getting a lot of questions about that, so I want to make sure you know, check your email and you will get that information today.
Okay. And then, so Christopher asked, what would you like us to do if we finish earlier than expected? First off, I would emphasize, we don't want you rushing through this material. This is the training of your job, and we have expectations that you are expected to meet throughout this season. So don't think that just because you're working on your own that I can just blast through this and then have half the day off. We are quizzing every section of this. And so if you're blasting through it and you don't get the greatest grades, we're probably going to have a few questions for you at that point. But if you are going through the material quickly and doing a good job with it, we do have some supplemental materials in there as well that you should start to dig into to expand your knowledge on the subject.
Yeah, I would just maybe add on to that, just to support your words, Eric. If you're going too quickly, you're not doing a thorough job, to be frank. There's a lot to read. So if you're going quickly, you're probably not reading. You're just scanning. You need to read all the materials that are provided in each of the modules. You need to do the quizzes. If you get us some perfect score in the quiz, then you didn't go through slow enough to be able to get the material right. I'd take the quiz again, and I would actually say if I see a quiz less than 80, we're going to give you a call and see what's going on. So again, this is very important. We're relying on you to train yourselves using these modules. So, and we know you're going to do it. But so they do take time. It's a lot of material. So that's all I just wanted to say to support that.
A couple of other Canvas questions. One is, someone's asking, is there a second email link for Canvas?
That email invitation that you got from Canvas, if you click on that, you should be able to get into the system. But if you have any individual difficulty, getting into Canvas, email me and we'll figure out where the problem is.
Do you want to put maybe put your email back? I know you put it in the chat already. And then another Canvas question, do we click the same link that we clicked today in our email for the other Zoom meetings?
No, you will be in Canvas and you will click the link next to each appropriate time box for the next links for future Zoom meetings. So make sure you're always clicking in Canvas to join the Zoom.
Yeah, it's associated with the time, right? So right there is the link. Okay. If that didn't answer your questions, chat me again. And then the next one is a time sheet question. I was told I have to record the hours I work because we're being paid for training. We then have to input the hours in Paylocity. Could you elaborate on this subject? I'm not sure if.
Leslie, did you want to take that one?
Paylocity is currently being activated for each of you. So not everyone will be able to get in and log their hours till next week. Payroll will send out an email to let you know when that's possible.
Okay, it was sort of the same question in the Q&A. Let me just make sure if this answered question. Okay, so there is someone who's having trouble with the link. If you could, to Richard, if you could just email Sue. Or
Yeah,
if you,
it's faster for me to deal with you guys one-on-one, so just email me directly.
all
I
right.
know Richard, he knows my email.
So there was someone else had asked the question about recording today's time somewhere. So hopefully that we already answered your question. If not, do a quick chat for us before we log off here. And I think that is it.
Very good. All right, so hopefully this was an informative session this morning. Again, we're thrilled to have everybody with us this summer, and I hope you all enjoy the online training and the Zooms. And of course, next week you'll have in-person training, which will be a good experience for everybody. So you won't be seeing myself or Zoe anymore in terms of like us giving any kinds of presentations, but we may pop into some of the Zoom sessions as well. I guess you will see me one more time. Sorry.
Yeah.
But anyway, have a good day and have a great summer.
I just want to, I'm sorry, Dan, a couple more questions come in. So I just want to reiterate that not everyone is set up in Paylocity yet. So you need to keep track of the time that you are spending on training today and for the rest of the week until you are set up in Paylocity. At that point, you will then enter your time into Paylocity. But until then, because there's so many of you, we're not ready for everyone to be in Paylocity yet. Leslie, do you want to add anything more? Did I get it right? Okay, so I know there's a couple, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, this week it should be extremely easy to track your time. You just follow the schedule. We start at 8, you log in the 15-minute breaks, you log in the lunch period, you log in your afternoon break and when we stop. So it's all kind of pre-recorded for you.
Yep. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, you can email Leslie.
Great.
I don't know how to get a hold of her. Okay, sorry.
All right, so we're gonna let y'all go now, and again, it was a pleasure to virtually meet everybody this morning, and we'll see you around.
Bye.
Bye.
And don't be shy, guys. Hit me if you have any questions.